On the Throttle Television brings you to Miller Motorsports Park for the final USGPRU race of the season in each of the classes. This is the Rising Sun Cycle GP Tech Moto3 event. We're using the full course of nearly 4.5 miles here at this premier racing facility. On the Throttle would like to thank its sponsors, along with the USGPRU, Honda, and Milwaukee, makers of the MD250H, featured in its own class here in the USGPRU. And a special thanks to Yoyodyne for their sponsorship of this Moto3 class, along with our good friends at Moto Liberty. Moto3 is kind of an amalgam of classes and racers and different motorcycles all racing together on the track at the same time. We spoke to one of the competitors about this mixed bag class.
What's Moto3 for the USGPRU?
Well, Moto3 was developed by Stu, obviously, just to come up with an idea of where there would be unlimited capabilities of motorcycles. The intent was hopefully to try and bring in 450s into the class, a 450 motocross bike with a road racing frame, much like the Milwaukees are now. Unfortunately, due to financial restraints, things like that, not too many people, only one or two were able to make the 450s, so it just kind of became where basically anything goes. So it's a fantastic avenue for, unlimited modified, obviously 125s and Milwaukees, and any 450s that should happen to be to come out and try and put on a level playing field and just go. The hopped up Milwaukee and a 125 are pretty close in comparison speeds and so forth, so you get equal riders on them, and they are just have a great race with one another. Stu's been great, everything's been great, and it's been a lot of fun being able to go out to all these new tracks on the East Coast, which unfortunately I've never been to before. A little bit of lack of practice, but still a good time, great facilities, and obviously the whole USGPRU guys, that travel all around. We see them every week, so it's a fantastic thing. The organization is just fantastic.
And why 125s and not like 600s and that kind of club racing?
There's something to be said about two-strokes. It's a completely different characteristic than a four-stroke is, and for anybody that really just started on it, if their idea isn't to just use it as a stepping stone, which a lot of youth do, and try and get out of it way too quickly because they're hoping, as far as a professional career, to get into a four-stroke thing. If you can stay in it a little bit longer, it's a completely different way of the way that the bike handles, the power characteristics, and you really learn how to ride. Whereas with a big four-stroke 600, you can rely so much on the power and just have more power than the guy that it really takes away from riding capabilities in a way. So with 125s, Milwaukee, some of these that are so evenly matched, I mean, the Milwaukee spec class is a perfect example. You get the top 5 guys that are, nose to tail the entire race. Moto2 in the world, Moto2. Fantastic example of that. You have equal machinery. It's kind of how it is with 125, so it forces you to learn how to ride and become a great rider, and then once you've accomplished that and you're ready to move on, then you can start taking the next step. But it's just a fantastic avenue, and I personally, obviously I'm old, I'm not going anywhere. I just love two strokes. I'll never do anything different. It's just in my blood, I guess.
Race underway. The Moto3 riders get off to a big start. The 250 GP, the Moto Liberty RS Taishi 250 GP riders are also in there in an earlier wave. Nobi Iso, the great veteran, getting the start with Lex Hartle on the bright green machine, and Jake Lewis just behind them on the other red and white bike. Then it's Nick McFadden, who's already sewed up the Milwaukee Championship, Jerry Signorelli, and the rest of the pack, a mix of 125 and Milwaukee machines, all giving these guys multiple opportunities to race on the same weekend in different classes and even mix it up with different machines out there. It's a good fun and a good time had by all. Through the attitudes, it's Nobi Iso, Lex Hartle, Jake Lewis, a little bit further behind Nick McFadden and Jerry Signorelli. Then it's the whole pack, a tight group of riders battling for positions there, including 3 of our visitors from Bermuda. More on that as we see them into Black Rock. It's Jake Lewis now taking the lead. And Jake Lewis out in front on the number 85 machine. The rest of the field filing through there as you look off into the distance. Bright blue skies. A threat of snow was even in the weather forecast. into Tooele. The Moto3 guys have caught up with the 250 GP class sort of back markers, and they're going to have to be working their way through traffic, while Jake Lewis in front here in the Moto3 class is weaving his way through. He'll get the first look at traffic. Hartle and Iso just a little bit further back. Ryan Matter started at the back of the field. He has just put a pass on the grand poobah of USGPRU, Stuart Aitken-Cade, with a rare opportunity to compete instead of administering the events here. Good tight racing between Nobi Iso. There are 3 Bermudan riders. Cody Souza Saints, Bruce DeGrilla. These guys competing at home, then here in the United States and back home, bouncing back and forth from the island to the mainland in pursuit of motorcycle racing careers. Nobi Iso in front of Hartle into the 3Ds. And McFadden leading the rest of the pack. Traffic is going to start to be an issue here pretty soon. Nick McFadden with that Moriwaki Championship already in the pocket is riding free and clear out there. Jake Lewis starting to run up on the front runners in the 250 class. That's Adrian Jasso on his Yamaha out of New York, the number 112. And the rest of the pack get sliding right through as well. The number 25, Stuart Aitken-Cade there. Up the inside, through the 250s and on their way. Jake Lewis still caught up with him, though. He's trying to get around, makes an outside move, goes the long way, gets the job done. And by the next lap around, he's shaken off those 250 leaders, and it's an all-alone race for Jake Lewis. Nobi Iso has opened some ground over Hartle. He's still tangled up a little bit with some of the 250s. Once he gets through, this battle may resume. So Jake Lewis earns the victory over Nobi Iso and Lex Hartle, with Ryan Matter coming from the back of the field to take forth over Nick McFadden in our Rising Sun Cycle GP Tech Moto3 final race of the year. Congratulations to our champions, Nick McFadden, member of the Vezra Suzuki development team, runner-up Jake Lewis, and who else, of course, Nobi Iso, taking the title once again here in 2010. So that does it for the Rising Sun Cycle GP Tech Moto3 event. Thanks for joining us here at On The Throttle TV.